God's blessing from Dublin Island. I want to revisit today a very important message which was delivered by John Paul Jackson in 2008. And the message is called The Perfect Storm. The reason for that is because we are actually living in it. And I will play a short introduction by John Paul Jackson, so you can see what were his intentions and why he's doing that and what he thinks about it. After that, he just basically shows what will be happening, and I will be presenting an updated version of that. But his introduction is very important. Just pay attention to the fact that he said that he was receiving this message over the years. He didn't receive that message in 2008. He's presenting that in 2008, but he was receiving this for a while ago, for a while before he started to talk about it or recorded this video. He's saying that though most of those things will be happening 10 years from now. That's the way he's saying. So since he was recording that in 2008, he would say that all those things will play out in 10 years, but from what he's saying, it should end around 2018. And you can see that actually things started to happen a bit later than that, but I will talk about it. So pay attention to the fact that he was receiving message before he recorded that video, that he thought that these things will basically happen, most of them 10 years from 2008, and he was pushed to speak. Then another important fact is that he's saying this is not wrath of God, and I will go to that, because wrath of God you have in Book of Revelation, that moment that God pours out his wrath on earth, and this is not it. So this is not the end. So pay attention to that. And then he talks about 5 elements which he believes it will be happening in. So he's talking about geophysical, war, religion, economy, politics. I will update also that one, but this is what he saw. So please listen to John Paul Jackson, and then I will come back and we will update entire information.
Hi, I'm John Paul Jackson, and I'd like to talk to you today about something that's very dear to my heart. The Lord began to speak to me the message that I'm about to bring to you several years ago. But in June of this past year, 2008, He began to push me to speak about it in several conferences here in the United States and abroad. Because some of the facets of the perfect storm happened so quickly after I wrote about it, I feel compelled to tell you that as a means of verification, one of the places I spoke on this topic was in a conference held by John Kilpatrick in July of 2008. The Lord then asked me to write it down and to send it to those on my mail list, and I did this the 1st of August. Though some of what I have already written has come to pass, most of these things will take place 10 years from now. Before I go any further, I just want to take a moment to say something to you before you hear what I'm about to say. This is very important because some of you may hear what I'm about to say and you may think that the wrath of God has come. And what I'm talking about is not the wrath of God. What I'm talking about is a loving God who is chastening his children because they're headed the wrong direction. There are 5 elements to the coming perfect storm. As in the movie, The Perfect Storm, I see the storm that is coming to the United States as a combination of more than one element. And when the elements unite, the storm becomes exponentially more dangerous. However, unlike the movie, this storm is not just a storm of merging weather patterns. This storm is worse. It involves 5 different elements: religion, politics, economics, war, and geophysical events. At times, these 5 elements will be so intertwined that it will be difficult, if not impossible, to distinguish which elements are driving a particular manifestation of the storm. Massive problems in these 5 areas will come often and in combination and sometimes repeatedly. Each element has potentially several elements that will have national and international ripple effects. Some ripples will be worse than others, depending on where you live and how you make your living. Different areas of the United States will experience different severities. Some will experience more economic elements and others more geophysical elements. Some will experience all the elements. Remember, it's the combination and the rapidity that will make the storm problematic. Also, this does not mean all 5 elements of the storm will hit at the most devastating levels. For example, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, one element may strike at a 6, while another strikes at an 8. It's the particular combination of elements, the proximity of each element, as well as the intensity of each element that will make this storm so difficult and seem to last so long.
Welcome back. So, as you have heard, he was going through those different things, starting from that he was receiving this message before 2008. So he was kind of waiting to release it. And then he says that he was pushed by God to release it. And I personally believe that he misread that in that moment, that he released that too early. Because as you can see, everything what he was saying in that message, those things started to happen with COVID, and he actually didn't. Well, he did go to that, but in other parts of his message, he recorded different messages with on different programs. So this so-called full version, which is about 1 hour, is the kind of original version. Then he was recording different updates on different programs. So again, he thought it will complete more or less by 2018. As far as I understand, it didn't even start in 2018. I think he was triggered by those events, 2008, 2009, with this financial crisis, and he basically believed that that was the time to release it. That's my understanding. So he was correct about a lot of things, but not about timing, and that often happens to prophetic people. They are either impatient or they are triggered by something, and they release something in the wrong time. And that it doesn't mean that they are false prophets, and a lot of people went after him for that, calling him that. But the only thing which happened there, I believe, is the wrong timing. And he heard from God, obviously, and just released that for a wrong time. So let's go further in that. He said that it is not the wrath of God. And I completely agree with that. There's so many things God is saying. This is not Book of Revelation playing out. It may be playing out in some sort, like a foreshadow of that, like kind of a picture of that, what will be. But this is not it. We are not at the end. There are countless prophecies that prove that, and even understanding the fact that you need certain things to happen before the book of Revelation may start playing out. For instance, the temple being built, and so many people you have basically huge billions of people that never heard the gospel, and it would be that like in India, China, Muslim nations, just 3 of those. And that's enough for me to believe this is not it, okay? That's not a wrath of God. It is, so why is this happening? So he said basically is to chasten Christians, to wake them up, to make them more, to make them true Christians, actually. We should say that. But I believe there are other reasons also. That will be one. So we will become really, alive and strong. So Christians will go through difficult things to become actually true followers of Jesus. But at the same time, I believe those things are happening to stop Antichrist coming before the time. Because the way the things are, the way the things are being are already prepared, he will be able to come within a year, my guess. So you have those groups of people who believe that he's coming, that the book of Revelation will be playing out very soon. And in a sense, they are correct, because all the signs are showing that. But we do not follow by the signs. We have to understand entire scripture. So although they are correct because signs are there, but because of other things, it is happening before the time. So God will have to stop it. And to stop it, he has to go after all those things like economy, politics, war is happening, obviously, and other things. So he has to go after that current system, which is trying basically to take over everything before his time. So God is going to stop it. So that's the second main reason. So one is to wake up Christians and make them strong and true believers, unfortunately through pain, but at the same time he's taking out the system. And system is not something mystical. These are organizations and people. So God is going after them. We will go to another part of the explanations. Thank you. Please share, like, and subscribe. Without your help, nobody really will find us. So please, if you can in any way, share this on groups, on Facebook, Twitter, and other places. Please do that, and also subscribe, which is very important for YouTube algorithms. Thank you. Welcome back. Now I want to talk about those 5 elements which John Paul Jackson have seen. I see more than that, but for a moment we'll focus on those 5 elements. So first of all, he have seen geophysical, war, economy, religion, and politics. All those elements are very much connected together. None of them is really working on its own. And he didn't create a separate element which would be pandemic or something like that, but he mentioned that he was talking about coming pandemic. And also he didn't talk really about geopolitics. He just mentioned politics. So he was kind of focused on, I would say, country specific, where geopolitics will be all those different games which are happening right now. So I would add those two, at least those two storms, which is pandemic and geopolitics. But obviously, we'll go farther into that. So at the beginning, I want to start with war. So he was looking, he didn't see Ukraine and Russia, but he mostly, I think, was focused on Iran. He was slightly focused on Russia, but slightly from different perspective, from economic perspective. He was seeing something, but not to that extent, I think. So as for war, we have that thing happening real time in Russia. This is not just that. This accelerated economy fallout. This shut down a lot of supplies. You have, for instance, Russia and Ukraine together have around 40% of wheat production. They have a similar amount of fertilizer production. They have other very specialized products like neon gas and a lot of different things. I probably don't even know all of them, which are basically being blocked now. From one side are being blocked because Russia won't allow Ukraine to export them, because the Black Sea ports, Mariupol is gone, basically Russia took it over, and others are blocked. So they are trying to ship things through Poland, but due to certain technical issues, it cannot be quickly done. So there's a lot of fallout, economic fallout from that, including food. I could add another one, which would be food shortages, but in general, it is included in the economy. So going back to war, so we have that one already there, running hot, and it may go farther. Like, don't assume that that's all. It may escalate. So either Russia going after another countries, as they already made threats, or escalating the levels, going, for instance, nuclear, or going into direct fight with NATO, which would be also caused by NATO supplying those arms. So there's a lot of aspects. Now, I won't be going to those things which, if you are listening to different independent networks, you heard about what was happening in Ukraine and why Russia invaded. I won't be going to those. Not that I do not believe them. It's because, we are recording that for YouTube, so I cannot say too much, but just be smart and research yourself what was happening there. So there are those aspects. But at the same time, as for Ukraine, there were prophecies, especially from Kim Clement, and I will have a separate video for that. He basically was saying that God will protect Ukraine and that God will go after Russia. So I believe what happened is, and that's, I got a personal word from God about it, that Russia overstepped permission God gave them. And they will be punished, severely punished. And if you look through the Bible, that's how God works. He was using certain kings and then was punishing them. So, for instance, he hardened the heart of Pharaoh, so he wouldn't let go Israel, and then he punished him. So he is using kings, and now obviously presidents and prime ministers and parliaments in his own way. So this thing may escalate it. Maybe not, but it may. At the same time, there are multiple other things that may be happening. You have China and Taiwan. This thing is on the verge. If that happens, you will get very likely US also engaged somewhat. I don't know how far. You will have Japan engaged. And there was a prophecy that China will attack Japan. But I'm not quite sure of the source. I know who is the source, just I'm not sure of that person. Prophecy Club is sure of them. They trust her, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. Although China attacking Japan on its own is convincing. Then, if again Taiwan happens, Australia may get involved because they're part of those alliances there. I hope they won't. I had a word for them, and I think part of that was do not go into that certain war. So you have that. Then you have something what also John Paul have seen, which was between Iran and Israel, and those things are accelerating. Turkey is accelerating, so they may join with Iran, for instance. And again, I'm not saying this is the end time scenario, like end time. But it could be a preparation or foreshadow of Gog and Magog. Could be. Not so far ago, was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe less. There was news coming from Israel that they had a military exercise when they basically took all the planes and they were simulating attacking Iran with basically all of their planes. It was huge, enormous military exercise there. It's quiet about it all around the world, but yeah, that's what happened. So the things are getting to very high levels there. Tension is very high. So you have that. Then you may have other places. You have Syria. You may have Belarus is actually kind of trying, that guy there, Lukashenko, is trying escalate things and is talking about that he has to protect Ukraine from Poland, which is bullshit. Sorry for such a words here, but that's what it is. And he's trying to kind of rally his nation, but I think they don't want neither war with, Belarusians. They don't want war with Ukraine, and they don't want war with Poland, definitely. But this guy is going mad a little bit there. Then you may have something in which will be India involved. India, Pakistan, India, China. So there's a lot of elements which may happen, which may play out. And you may have another war and another war. So we are in it in a huge, huge way. Now, let's move to economy. So, as you remember what I said, that I believe he was triggered kind of, John Paul Jackson, he was triggered by those events happening, this financial crisis which we had in 2008. And he prematurely released this perfect storm prophecy. That's my view. I think I'm correct. But that 2008 crisis, it weakened economy, and seriously weakened. And they never solved that problem. Whatever caused those problems, it was never solved. It was swept under the rug, and they were basically printing money to cover that up, to smooth things, but never solved anything. Never. So that whatever problems were building to that date, until 2008, they're still there. And not only they're there, but they are multiplied. They are enlarged, seriously enlarged. That is beyond any capacity to repay or manage even. So economy on its own, even without war, without COVID, pandemic, and possible other pandemics, economy on its own is destined to collapse. Without even those things, the way it is. They may try to, prop up things, print a bit more money there or there. I don't know if you have noticed recently, Federal Reserve declared that they will be raising rates by 75 basic points, and this caused basically market collapse. The market was already collapsing kind of a little bit there, and then was trying to raise up and then collapse again a little bit, but it was a small changes. This was bigger change. And most recently, there was a prophecy from Spirit Move Ministries by Liberty about huge crash coming to Wall Street. So things are going, crazy. God told me to prepare a long time ago. I think it was when I was fully aware of all of that, and more as direction I have to go, was 2018. But I didn't know what will trigger that. I didn't know about pandemic. I didn't know about other things, and I was kind of honestly disappointed at the time that those what John Paul Jackson was saying didn't happen when he was saying, and I cannot kind of put it aside that okay, guy was wrong, but see, he was not wrong. He was just he was wrong about the timing. So all those people who were screaming that he's a false prophet, they were wrong. They were wrong. He was people. So see, prophets are also people. They make mistakes, and so did he. He picked the wrong timing. Was probably he was he was overwhelmed by everything was happening with this 2008 crisis, and he felt that that's the time. That's more or less what he was saying. He wasn't talking about why, but he was convinced, pushed by God to release it now. Anyway, so we have that economy, on the verge. Anything could do that. So then you had pandemic, which you had all the businesses shut down while money was being printed. Huge tons of money were printed, which caused inflation. Inflation was already brewing because money was being printed all the time, but now they just hit it, full speed, full ahead, like full speed ahead. I mean, they were printing like crazy. At the same time, businesses shut down. And see, it didn't stop. Like China is continuing shutdowns. So this weakened economy. There is no economy as such. It's all still runs on the printed money, not on actual production, not on actual demand. The demand is somewhat there, but it's not what it should be, and it will collapse. And now you had, for instance, in US, but it's also in Europe, but mainly it's visible in US that you have the mortgage rates went so much up that people stopped basically borrowing. So they won't be buying new houses or old houses, and the whole thing is going down now, going backwards. Entire real estate, which is part of economy. And I could go on for another half an hour on that, because I know a lot, but just consider that it is going down. So you had pandemic, which weakened that. Now it's war. War has weakened economy. Shut down supply lines. The sanctions are introduced. Price of gas, by gas I mean not petrol, but gas, because different people are listening, both American and not American. So when I'm saying gas, I mean not something what you use to power your car. I mean something what you use for heating. When I talking about oil or petrol, that's for cars. So entire gas prices went crazy, and it was happening already before the war, and then they were even farther. They introduced obviously sanctions against Russia, against Belarus even now. They recently in Europe decided they won't be buying any oil. They're still buying gas because they have no choice. So things are, accelerating constantly. And with all of that, Russia is on its own shutting down supplies. Most recently, they shut down supply of neon, which is necessary for production of semiconductors or chips and stuff like that. So they're kind of responding. At the same time, Russia pegged the currency to the commodities, which is weakening the dollar. Dollar is only strong because it's strong against euro, yen. By the way, yen is collapsing as we speak. I mean, it's collapsing completely. They're barely afloat. So all of that is like crazy, mad, unstoppable avalanche. And whatever happens next, it will just add to that. So we already had a pandemic, war, and everything, and existing conditions in economy which were very bad. Now this is accelerating, and then another war happens, it will accelerate further. My guess, okay, but that's only a guess. It's not a prophecy. It's not a certainty. But my guess, the economy will collapse this year. How low it will go, I don't know. 80% from current state, like stock market. Bonds will go basically to zero. And bond market is bigger. And then you have derivatives, and I may go for hours on that. And I don't want to, because we have other subjects. So that's bad, and it will be wars, and it is going to collapse. God told it to Spirit Move Ministers. God told it to other people. God told about money losing any value to many people, about food shortages, everything. And God personally told me that the economy will collapse. I can find it in my Black Waters Are Coming dream. It was my dream which convinced me that I'm correct. And it was in the dream I got was 2019, I believe. So all of this. So we talked about war, we talked about economy, which is a huge subject. Now politics. It's not much which is not connected with economy and so on. But for starters, you had your election in US in 2020, and everybody knows what happened. I cannot say those words, but you know what I mean. And those which are from not from US, they don't probably know what I mean, because they are not that involved in that, and they don't know that much. But things were bad for the US in many aspects during that election. And now they're getting worse. Well, but they're getting worse for Democrats and all those people, because they are basically running country to the ground. But eventually it will turn good, because certain political forces and groups within the groups will collapse. They will collapse. The same will happen in Europe, in other countries. Those powers to be running currently affairs in different parts of the world, they will go down. I won't be naming names. Julie Green was banned from YouTube for naming names. I believe that's why she was banned completely. She's a prophet if you don't know her. She's on Rumble. Just go to Rumble and you find her. So we have politics. Total political upheavals, including riots and everything. The riots are already happening. Political and economy both connected. You can see like Sri Lanka, Turkey, one of the South American countries, I don't remember now which one, I think Peru, basically collapsing. Because some of the currencies are already collapsing because of the commodity prices, being that oil and gas and food. Things are going mad. So governments are basically collapsing. Government in Pakistan collapsed. And it's only a beginning. So we have politics. So we had war, economy, politics. Now, another big subject he mentioned was geophysical. It is not that strong yet, not that strongly visible, but we already have a lot of changes in climate, and it's not that thing they're promoting, okay? You have droughts, which is causing food shortages. But what is coming, beside droughts and too much rain in other places and snow when it shouldn't be, and John Paul Jackson have seen all of that. He's seen hurricanes of huge diameter. I don't remember now the size, but one of them actually happened already. It was huge. He was talking about tornadoes that they will have to create another category because they will be so strong. But then another what is coming, volcanoes are coming, and en masse, and a lot of them in the US, as far as I understand from those prophecies. And obviously earthquakes, and there's a lot of being said now, especially on Prophecy Club, but it was prophesied before by people in Morning Star about pneumatic fault. So basically, you would have from big lakes down to Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico, America split in half because of the earthquake. But they believe that this will be because America will split Israel, or at least participate in that, or allow it. So we have that. There was John Paul Jackson heard about those volcanoes there in the multiple volcanoes in northwest, and then you have this ring of fire, which is obviously outside of US, and volcanoes there and earthquakes. So those things are coming. They are not yet at the full swing, but they are coming. So now the final point he had was religion. Now, all of that, what I already said, will be affecting religion. Why? Because if you are in a church which is dead, which is lukewarm, which doesn't hear from God, which leaders don't know what to do, and they don't know what to tell you, or cannot advise you in any way except some, useless advice, people will be seeking God, and those ministers will be going down. And this was heard, like, again, both from John Paul Jackson as well from other people, that big ministers will be going bankrupt, either through the fact that they cannot pay the building or cannot pay that, or just the fact that people will stop giving because they don't trust them anymore, and the things will be coming out, bad things. And he was clear that it's not just about certain sexual deviation, which is happen in Catholic Church a lot, but it will be across all the churches. So let's not pin that on Catholics, okay? In Ireland, I think there was like hundreds of people are basically being persecuted, and they're going to jail for abusing young children in all kinds of ways, including sexual. They had to actually, due to my work, I know about certain things, but they basically had to revamp one new prison with 100 cells just to help ease the overcrowd, prisons being overcrowded because of that. So many people are being convicted. So, and this is just Ireland. So a lot of things will be happening to churches. And I will then later talk about what will be happening to Christians, but anything what can be shaken will be shaken. So what is not from God, what is not built on the rock, which is not preaching true gospel, which is doing all those evil things, could be sexual nature, could be financial, could be anything, could be manipulation, control, they will be going down. I'm not saying that God will remove all of them, but a lot of them will go down, one way or another. I have already experienced that in Ireland. I know there were multiple churches which collapsed for different reasons, and it was like a foreshadow of what is coming. I was part of the church which collapsed, and something new we're trying to build, and I'm not convinced it's working. They think it's working. Everybody has its own opinion, obviously. So we have a religion. It'll be great shakeup. Now I'll add those additional things, I believe. So he mentioned pandemic, but he didn't focus on it that much. He didn't mention it as a main thing happening, but clearly it is. Well, it was, and it will be, because you already have another thing showing up, and they keep talking about monkeypox, and we don't know if it's the last one or then more is coming, which is very likely. So people may have different health issues, and we have to turn to God, because that's the only way. That's the only way. If you don't turn to God and you take medications, there's nothing wrong with taking medications, but certain medications may not be healthy. Okay, I cannot again say certain things because we are on YouTube. And I want to leave it on YouTube because because there's more people here still. So certain so-called medications have side effects and cause a lot of problems, and this may escalate also. I'm talking in code. You have to decode it. So another pandemics may be coming. You have this monkey thing, and then you may something else may show up. Now another one which he skipped, but he was talking about politics. But I would like to add another one, which was geopolitics, which is related to war and politics, obviously. But you have those different things happening. You have Brexit, where Great Britain decided to leave EU. At the same time, a lot of people are trying to get into EU. But personally, I believe the same as in US, certain political forces will go down. The same in Europe, they will go down. They have to. This is ungodly organization in Europe. Well, many of them, but I'm talking about the main one, which we are all part of. So, and this will be connected with fall of euro as well. So there is a lot of aspects. They're all intertwined with each other. Economy, with war, with pandemic, with everything else, with geophysical, with weather patterns. All of that, it's happening at the same time and is intensifying. It's not stopping. You think that COVID has stopped, but it's not stopping really, because of those after effects. Even if there won't be another pandemic, which seems to be on the way. So it will be all intensifying. The most, I believe now, it will move towards economy, possibly another conflict, military conflict, and a lot of weather conditions, geophysical. They will be moving towards that. And this will also cause that religions will be falling apart, because people will be looking for answers, and those who don't know truly God won't be able to give them, and will go down. So that's a short short description of what I see and what John Paul Jackson have seen. I kind of expanded on that, made it more current. In the next part, I will be talking just about particular things he said and which are happening. So, or not happening, but most of them do. And I already said a lot about economy. Actually, probably that's the longest part of that section of this video. But I may revisit economy as well. So thank you, and I will be moving to the next part in the same video in a moment. But please subscribe, like, and comment on those videos, because it's extremely helpful for us to be found on YouTube and in search engines. If you do that, it is very helpful. Thank you.